In the twilight of the Middle Ages, when the world was still filled with magic and mystery, intrepid sailors would have charted uncharted waters in search of new lands. On their maps, they'd mark not just continents and islands known to man, but also mystical realms rumored to exist beyond the horizon. And among these fantastical destinations was Hy-Brasil, the legendary lost land that has captured the imaginations of many throughout history. This mythical island, shrouded in mist and enigma, was said to appear only once every 7 years, tantalizing those who sought it out with the promise of eternal youth and otherworldly beauty. But as time went on, Hy-Brasil gradually faded from maps and memory, leaving behind only whispers and legends. So what was Hy-Brasil, and where did this captivating tale come from? Let's embark on a journey through time and uncover the secrets of this elusive island that has become known as the Atlantis of Ireland. Our journey begins in the year 1325 with the earliest surviving maps that feature Hy-Brasil. The name itself is thought to derive from the Gaelic Hy-Brasil, meaning descendants of Brazil, perhaps referring to a legendary Irish clan or a mythical hero named Brazil. According to folklore, Hy-Brasil was situated in the Atlantic Ocean west of Ireland, not too far from the coast of County Kerry. It was typically depicted as a circular island, sometimes with a central channel, much like the mythical Avalon said to be the resting place of King Arthur. One of the most famous early maps showing Hy-Brasil is the Angelino Dulcert map, named after the Italian cartographer who produced it around 1339. It was one of the first nautical charts to show the North American mainland and also included several mythical islands, including Hy-Brasil. Interestingly, Hy-Brasil appears to be one of the few place names of non-Latin origin on this predominantly Latin map, possibly indicating its prominence in maritime lore at the time. For centuries, Hy-Brasil remained a fixture on European maps, appearing in works by renowned cartographers like Ortelius and Mercator from the 14th through the 19th centuries. Despite its persistent presence on these maps, however, there are no verifiable records of any seafarer actually reaching the island, leading many to believe that it was nothing more than a mythical landmass. In medieval Irish folklore, Hy-Brasil was said to be shrouded in mist for most of the year, only becoming visible once every 7 years. When it did emerge from the mist, however, it was a sight to behold, an emerald jewel in the Atlantic adorned with lush vegetation and inhabited by a race of benevolent fairies. This enchanting realm was said to be ruled by a king and queen who welcomed visitors with open arms, offering them the chance to experience eternal youth and partake in the island's magical wonders. One of the most intriguing aspects of Hy-Brasil's lore is the legend surrounding its discovery. According to folklore, the island was first sighted by a group of Irish monks who were sailing westward in search of a new home. They had heard rumors of a mystical land that lay beyond the ocean, and Hy-Brasil was believed to be its name. Upon reaching the island, they were greeted by the king and queen who allowed them to settle there and practice their religion freely. The monks lived on Hy-Brasil for many years, enjoying its beauty and learning the secrets of the fairies before eventually returning to Ireland. In the 17th century, an Irish monk named John Colgan wrote about Hy-Brasil in his book, The History of Ireland, from the year 322 to 1635. In his account, he described the island as a place of perpetual youth and happiness, where the inhabitants lived without care or sorrow. He also mentioned the annual festival held on Hy-Brasil, which attracted people from all over Ireland, eager to experience its magic. Perhaps the most famous account of Hy-Brasil comes from Captain John Nisbet of Donegal, who claimed to have landed on the island in 1674. According to Nisbet's tale, he and his crew encountered an old man on the shore who told them that they were on the legendary island of Hy-Brasil. The old man then led them to a nearby cave filled with gold and silver, which he claimed belonged to the fairies. Nisbet and his crew took some of the treasure with them as proof of their incredible discovery. However, as they were leaving, the old man warned them never to return to Hy-Brasil, as doing so would break the ancient laws protecting the island. While Nisbet's story may sound like an exciting adventure, it was later linked to a literary hoax perpetrated by Irish satirist Richard Head. In 1684, Head published a work titled The Most Exact and Comprehensive Description of the Kingdom of Ireland, which contained several fictional accounts of Ireland's history and folklore. Among these tales was Head's version of Nisbet's encounter with the Old Man on Hy-Brasil, complete with details about the island's location and appearance. Unfortunately, Head's hoax went undetected for several centuries, leading many to believe that Nisbet's account was genuine. It wasn't until the 19th century that scholars began to uncover the truth about Head's literary deception, realizing that he had fabricated the story of Hy-Brasil for satirical purposes. Another report came in 1872 when T.J. Westrup, a member of the Irish Ordnance Survey, claimed to have spotted Hy-Brasil while surveying the coast near Galway. According to Westrup, he saw a hazy outline of an island that matched the descriptions given in ancient texts. However, when he tried to reach it, the island seemed to vanish into thin air. This sighting marked the last time Hy-Brasil was ever reported, and its legend faded into obscurity as the 19th century drew to a close. Despite the lack of concrete evidence confirming its existence, Hy-Brasil continues to capture the imaginations of scholars, historians, and artists alike. Its enduring legacy is a testament to the power of folklore and the human desire to believe in a hidden paradise. So where did the legend of Hy-Brasil come from, if the island truly doesn't exist? Historians have proposed various theories to explain the origins of this enduring myth. One popular explanation is that the idea of Hy-Brasil originated from misidentified landmasses that lay off the coast of Ireland. For instance, there is a submerged bank located approximately 24 miles off the southwestern tip of Ireland is Cape Clear Island. This underwater formation, known as the Blasket Islands, may have been mistaken for Hy-Brasil by early sailors. Additionally, optical illusions caused by sea mists could have contributed to the sightings of Hy-Brasil, leading to its depiction on nautical charts. Furthermore, some scholars believe that the name Brazil may have been a corruption of Brazilwood, a red dye extracted from the heartwood of certain tropical trees. This suggests that rather than being a mythical island, Hy-Brasil may have originally been marked on maps as a source of Brazilwood, highlighting the economic interests that influenced early cartography. Another compelling theory proposes that the legend of Hy-Brasil emerged from a combination of medieval cartographic errors, optical illusions, and the desire to believe in a mythical island paradise. Over time, these sightings and legends were embellished and incorporated into Irish folklore, eventually taking on a life of their own. By the 17th and 18th centuries, Hy-Brasil had become deeply ingrained in Irish poetry and folklore, celebrated by renowned writers like W.B. Yeats, Lady Gregory, and others associated with the Irish literary revival. In their works, Hy-Brasil was often portrayed as a place of eternal youth and beauty, a refuge from the troubles of the modern world. Yeats, in particular, was captivated by the legend and wrote several poems about Hy-Brasil, including The Island of the Setting Sun and The Stolen Child. These poems further cemented Hy-Brasil's place in Irish culture and helped to preserve its legacy for future generations. Moreover, the legend of Hy-Brasil played a role in shaping Irish folklore, featuring prominently in tales of paradisiacal Christian lands known as O Cruithan in Gaelic. These stories, often told during the Celtic Christmas season, recounted the adventures of Irish saints and their encounters with mythical creatures and magical landscapes. Hy-Brasil, with its association with eternal youth and otherworldly beauty, fits seamlessly into this genre of folklore, becoming an integral part of the cultural heritage of Ireland. Even today, the legend of Hy-Brasil continues to fascinate scholars, historians, and artists who are intrigued by this mysterious island and its enduring legacy. Researchers explore its origins and meanings, seeking to uncover the historical and cultural influences that shaped its evolution over the centuries. Meanwhile, writers and poets continue to draw inspiration from Hy-Brasil, incorporating its themes of eternal youth and the allure of the unknown into their creative works. So while Hy-Brasil may never be found on a modern map or confirmed to have ever existed, its story lives on in the hearts and minds of those who are captivated by its magic. In conclusion, Hy-Brasil, the elusive island of eternal youth, has captivated the imaginations of many throughout history. From its appearance on medieval maps to its portrayal in Irish folklore and literature, this mystical realm has left an indelible mark on Irish culture. Although no archaeological evidence supports its existence, the legend of Hy-Brasil endures, fueled by tales of mythical creatures, enchanted landscapes, and the promise of everlasting life. Whether viewed as a geographical enigma, a literary creation, or a symbol of humanity's longing for a hidden paradise, Hy-Brasil remains an iconic part of Ireland's rich cultural heritage, forever known as the Emerald Isle's very own Atlantis. Thank you for joining me on this journey to the legendary lost land of Hy-Brasil. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button to show your support and stay tuned for more fascinating explorations into the world of ancient myths and legends. In the mountains of southern Siberia, there exists a mysterious array of enormous upright slabs of granite that are more than twice as old as the Egyptian pyramids. What's up, everyone? Here's a news flash. I'm your host, and you're watching this channel. Join me today as we look at some hidden megaliths in Siberia that may be much older than the pyramids. It's coming up next. We've seen many interesting things while exploring the vast landscapes of Siberia, from dinosaur fossils to frozen mammoths. But today we venture into one of the most remote regions of the world to examine a series of strange rock formations. Hidden away atop Mount Kuilium in the Kuznetsk-Alatau mountain range, there are nearly 300 giant stone pillars that reach up to 7 meters tall and weigh hundreds of tons. Some even appear to be perfectly stacked upon each other. Locals call these formations the Gornaya Shoria megaliths. Now, many geologists believe these formations are simply the result of tectonic forces coupled with severe weathering over the last several million years. But others are pointing out some of these blocks have flat surfaces and geometric shapes, which they say cannot be explained by natural processes. They believe instead that these structures were created by ancient people who lived in Siberia more than 20,000 years ago. If you're wondering why no one noticed this place before, it's because it's really remote and hard to get to. It took explorers more than 2 weeks to hike into the area. There's no roads leading to this place. The only way to get there is on foot. Some of these rocks include very strange features like slots and holes that look almost like they were drilled out with some kind of tool. This has led some researchers to speculate that there was some kind of ancient civilization living here thousands of years ago. Geologists discovered that the rock formations are made of granite. It appears the granite was pushed up during the Cretaceous period when the Earth's tectonic plates collided. It was first pushed up approximately 80 million years ago, but then again about 40 million years ago when the Asian plate began to push into the Earth as crust. Since then, the rock has been slowly wearing down. But what geologists are most interested in is how the granite fractured. When the granite was pushed up from below the Earth's surface, it was exposed to weathering from wind and water. Over millions of years, the granite cracked and broke apart. But the thing is, it didn't just break apart in one direction. It fractured into two separate patterns. This is called a conjugate or orthogonal joint set. Many times these joints form V-shaped valleys and canyons. In some cases, they form a distinctive X pattern. Now, granite is famous for having very sharp edges that quickly break off into smaller pieces. But sometimes these edges become smooth and curved. This process is called spheroidal weathering. Basically, the corners and edges of the granite are rounded off. You can see this happening in many places around the world where granite has weathered. For example, if you visit the UNESCO World Heritage Site at the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, you will see many smooth, rounded blocks of granite. They weathered over time. So in the case of the Gornaya Shoria megaliths, it appears the granite weathered into these rectangular shapes because of the combination of tectonic activity, stress and strain, plus spheroidal weathering. All of this caused the rock to fracture in multiple directions. Then the granite wore away into these blocky shapes. Researchers formally mapped the site in the 1990s and labeled them denudated prepared ridges. Now, admittedly, it doesn't sound very exciting, but it is important to know that these names aren't just given out willy-nilly. In order to receive official recognition from the Russian Academy of Sciences, a name must accurately describe the location and its formation. In 2003, the geologist Anatoly Malyavko stated that the stone pillars were likely formed between 20 and 50 million years ago, and that the flat tops were simply the result of erosion. While most scientists agree that these formations are indeed natural, there are a few who disagree. For instance, Yuri K. Korolev says that the pillars are regularly aligned, and this alone proves that they were placed there by human hands. He points out that the pillars are too perfect to be natural, and if you look closely, you can see markings on some of them that look like they were cut with a tool. Some of the pillars even have square-shaped cut marks along the top, so clearly someone was here with a chisel and hammer. Of course, geologists counter that over millions of years, the weathering could have eroded away some of the granite, leaving behind only the most durable sections. But Kovalev says there are some grooves that show clear evidence of drilling. There's also another website run by a researcher named Sergei A. Kazantsev that shows many photos of what he calls the Kumashan Plateau megalithic structures. He believes that there was a lost Siberian civilization that built these huge stones into a wall around 20,000 years ago. One of the main reasons he thinks this is because there is no archaeological evidence to suggest that anyone ever lived in the area. There are no tools, artifacts, or signs of excavations. You'd think that if people constructed these monoliths, there would be some sign of a settlement nearby, right? Where did they live? How did they get their food? There should be something, but there isn't. If the megalith theory is correct, then we can say that this civilization was pretty advanced. After all, it would have taken some sort of crane or pulley system to lift these heavy blocks into place. However, there is one piece of evidence that suggests that the blocks were not placed there by humans, and that's the fact that they're not uniform. In fact, they're quite random. Just look at this photo. Can you imagine someone cutting down trees and placing these randomly? I can't. Nature is chaotic and unpredictable. Scientists can model and predict certain natural occurrences fairly accurately, but in the end, anything can happen. Natural processes don't always turn out nice and neat. Sometimes they produce random results. And if these formations are truly natural, then that would explain why there are no traces of human life in the area. Nobody ever lived here. Nobody ever built anything here. Siberia, however, does have verified archaeological megaliths. One great example is the rock structures on Vera Island in the Urals. Researchers have determined that the megaliths date back to the Chalcolithic, also known as the Copper Age, roughly 4,000 years BCE. Another fascinating discovery in Siberia is the Shigir idol. This is the world's oldest known wooden monument. It was carved from larch and is believed to be 11,500 to 12,100 years old. This makes it twice as old as the Great Pyramid, which was built around 2600 BCE. However, it is important to mention that the idol is not a megalith. It's a work of art carved from a tree. Still, it proves that early humans were capable of building monuments. The thing to keep in mind with the pyramid claim is that nobody has actually dated these stone formations. The pyramid was built around 2600 BCE, and we know this because archaeologists found objects buried beneath the pyramid that were dated using carbon-14. They found animal bones and wood. Meanwhile, the dating of the Shigir idol was done using dendrochronology, which is the scientific method of dating a piece of wood by matching its growth rings to a master chronology of annual tree rings. Unfortunately, we can't use either of these methods to date the Gornaya Shoria megaliths. I wish I could tell you exactly how old they are, but I can't. While some researchers have claimed that the megaliths are at least 20,000 years old, mainstream science does not support this claim. As for how the Shigir idol is 11,500 years old, well, you can read a summary of the peer-reviewed study by following the link in the description below. What's interesting is that the shore people who live near the megaliths have legends about them. According to local folklore, the stones were put there by giants or supernatural beings. These stories have been passed down through generations, but of course, they're just stories. They're part of the local mythology. They're not evidence of ancient construction. To prove that these blocks were placed here by humans, we need solid evidence. We need to find tools, leftovers from a campfire, maybe even some old bones. We need to do a full-scale excavation and perform tests on any artifacts we discover. We need to analyze the chemistry of the soil. We need to do all of this before we can say with certainty that humans played a role in creating these formations. Until then, we can only wonder. Are these stone pillars natural rock formations, or are they the remnants of a lost Siberian megalithic builder? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. Is it possible that the Siberian megaliths are older than the pyramids? Let me know. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.